everyone, and welcome to week 3 of our new distance learning topics. Before we begin, I want to make sure that if you're watching this video, that you have first watched the video on the Ed Puzzle on slope-intercept form. That is half of your homework for today. And while I know that it's probably a lot, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I just wanted to give that all to you. I thought it was explained pretty well. And basically, we're going to pick apart that video this week, okay? So we're not going to do everything in that video. We're not going to cover everything in that video today, but that's kind of a really good overview of what we're doing this week. I would suggest that throughout the week, maybe at the end of the week, you go back and watch that video again, as it does a nice job going through everything that you're going to learn this week. Your homework is also Khan Academy Slope Intercept Intro is the topic. The link is found in Google Classroom, but once again, I would suggest that you just go onto khanacademy.com, log in, and it will be under assignments, okay? That way you know you're getting credit for it. At this point, we are now 7 weeks into our distance learning total, and so no more excuses for I forgot I did it but I wasn't logged in. Then you're going to have to do it again, and don't forget you can do it as many times as you want to receive the grade that you want. If you only get half of them right, you're only going to get 5 out of the 10 points, okay? So take it again. I only use the best score. That shows me that you've worked to improve yourself, and therefore I'm going to use that best score. Before we start going over what the video went over, I just want to do a brief review on finding slope given 2 points. And if we recall our, I already made a mistake there, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It doesn't matter which ordered pair is your x1, y1 and which is your x2, y2, but label them first. The first thing you should do is pick and say, I'm going to make this my first ordered pair, so there's my x1 and y1. I'm going to make this my second ordered pair, so that's x2, y2. It's just the x value of the first ordered pair, the y value of the first ordered pair. The x value of the second ordered pair, y value of the second ordered pair. Then we're just going to plug that into our slope formula. So I chose this slope specifically because this is a common mistake, so I want you paying attention. y2 is negative 4 minus y1 is 7 over x2 is negative 6 minus x1 is negative 4. That right there is the biggest mistake. Students just write negative 6 minus 4. It's minus negative 4, okay? So don't forget to write the whole thing out. And now we have negative 4 and negative 7 make negative 11 over negative 6. The minus negative 4 is plus 4. So we get negative 11 over negative 2, which means that m equals positive 11 over 2, because the negative over the negative make a positive. You do not have to turn that into a mixed number. In fact, generally you don't turn it into a mixed number when we're talking about slope, but you do want to reduce it if you can. If this were 22 over 4, you would turn it into 11 over 2. Okay, so you would reduce it, but keep it as an improper fraction. All right, now today what we're going to talk about is just introducing slope-intercept. And we're going to start with the word intercept. An intercept is where your graph of your line crosses an axis. Now, in the video, we talked about the y-intercept, y-intercept, y-intercept. We're going to talk about why that's so important tomorrow, but today I just want to talk about what the intercept is. So here, the intercept, this line right here, this graph intercepts the x-axis here at the point negative 6, 0, and intercepts the y-axis here at the point 0, 4. Well, that's kind of interesting that each one of those had a 0 in it, and that's not by chance. That's going to always be the case. The y-intercept appears when x equals 0, and the x-intercept appears at a y value of 0. So that gives us a rule of thumb. or that gives us a rule. In order to find the x-intercept, substitute 0 for the y value. Okay? The x-intercept will always be at y equals 0. And inversely, the y-intercept will always be at x equals 0. So we can find the x and the y-intercept of the graph by plugging in x equals 0 to find the y-intercept, y equals 0 to find the x-intercept. Okay? So if we have a graph, or if we have an equation rather, and we're asked to find the intercepts of the equation, then first I'm going to plug x equals 0 in to find the y, and I'm going to plug y equals 0 to find the x. So we start with the equation x minus 2y equals negative 2. We plug 0 in for x. 0 minus 2y equals negative 2. So that gives us negative 2y equals negative 2. We divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. We get y equals 1, which means we have a point at x equals 0, y equals 1. There's an ordered pair. We're going to use the same equation now, x minus 2y equals negative 2, but now we're going to replace the y with 0. X minus 2 times 0 equals negative 2. X minus 2 times 0 is 0 equals negative 2. X minus 0 is just x equals negative 2, which means the y-intercept, the x-intercept is at negative 2, 0. Okay? We've just gotten those 2 points by plugging in 0 for x and then 0 for y. Okay? Now here, again, same thing. 4x plus 3y equals 12. We're going to find the y-intercept by setting x equal to 0. Plus 3y equals 12. 4 times 0 is 0. Plus 3y equals 12. 0 plus 3y is just 3y equals 12. Divide by 3, and we get y equals 4. So when x equals 0, y equals 4, there's an ordered pair. Now we do the same thing here. We plug 4x plus 3y equals 12, and now we replace the y with 0. 4x plus 3 times 0 equals 12. 4x plus 0 equals 12. X equals 3, which means x equals 3. When I set the y equal to 0, there's our ordered pair. And then finally, number 3, you might recognize from the video that this is in slope-intercept form, okay? But we can still find the x and the y-intercepts of this. Now first, if I find the y-intercept by setting the x equal to 0, I notice right away, that's interesting. The y-intercept is negative 8. It's sitting right there. So that's the point, 0, negative 8. And that's important to know that when you were paying attention to the slope-intercept form, that represented the y-intercept. And that's the reason why. When something is in slope-intercept form and I plug 0 in for x, the only thing that's going to be left is that constant, which is why it becomes our y-intercept. And then I can also plug 0 in for y and solve, and I wind up getting negative 4, so that becomes negative 4, 0, okay? We're going to talk about the importance of that a little bit more tomorrow, but I want to go back to slope-intercept form right now, okay? So slope-intercept form is when you have an equation with an x and a y, and the y is solved for. So it's in the form y equals mx plus b. Now, what I loved about that video is that he explained that the y and the x represent any ordered pair on your line, okay? This is going to be the equation of a linear graph, okay? So the y and the x represent every ordered pair. Now, there are an infinite number of ordered pairs on your graph, on your line, okay? So as x changes, y changes, and that's why we have an infinite number. Now, the m is the coefficient of the x, and that represents your slope. Well, we found slope. We understand what slope means. It's rise over run. And finally, this b, which could be, see how it's plus b? It could be minus b. That would just mean it's a negative, represents your y-intercept. All right? So today, we're just going to identify the slope and the y-intercept of an equation. Okay, so here we have y equals x minus 6. Now, they started us off with a tough one, but we're looking for slope for the coefficient of x. Don't put 0, because what is the coefficient of x? Here, it's 1. So your slope is 1, and what is your constant? It's negative 6, so your y-intercept is negative 6. So you'd write m equals 1, b equals negative 6. Now on this one, we notice that we're not in slope-intercept form. In order to put this in order to identify the slope and the y-intercept, we need to be in slope-intercept form. So first we need to solve for y. If we have 8x equals 5y, in order to solve for y, we divide by 5, and now this becomes y equals 8/5 x, which means we have a slope of 8/5 and a y-intercept of, well, wait, we're looking for the constant there, and it's not there. That means that it's a y-intercept of 0. And anything that has a y-intercept of 0 means that it passes through the origin. It goes through the point 0, 0. Okay, here, same thing. We're going to solve for y. So if we have 3x plus 7y equals 9, first we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. That gives us 7y equals, notice how I'm going to put it here. Why did I put it there instead of 9 minus 3x? Because I'm starting to think about how I want this to look in the end. I want it to be y equals mx plus b. And then you divide by 7. When you divide by 7, every single term gets divided by 7. And we get y equals negative 3/7 x plus 9/7. Don't worry about that. We're typically not going to work with y-intercepts that are crazy like that, but here we have a slope of negative 3/7 and a y-intercept of 9/7. Okay, so identify the slope, slope and y-intercept for each. M equals negative 5, b equals positive 6. Here, m equals 3. It's got a slope of 3, a y-intercept of negative 2. Here, we have a slope of negative 2, a y-intercept of negative 4. All right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit just because I want to show you this one right here. Number 8, this last one. Here we have a slope of negative 1 and a y-intercept of 6. Okay? And then finally, I wanted to just go through and talk to you a little bit more about putting it into slope-intercept form. Here we want to solve for y, so we divide both sides by 9, and we get 1/3, that's just 3 over 9 reduced, x equals y, or y equals 1/3 x. This has a slope of 1/3 and a y-intercept of 0, meaning it passes through the origin. Here, we subtract 3x from both sides. Remember, now we're going to have negative y equals negative 3x plus 14. I don't want a negative y, I want it to be y, so I'm going to divide by negative 1. Everybody divides by negative 1, and I get y equals 3x minus 14, giving me a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of negative 14. Okay, I'm going to let you, you can do these last two on your own. I will give you what the answers are, so that way you can check to see if you get it. Number 7 should turn into y equals 1/4 x minus 4, and number 8 becomes y equals negative 1/4 x plus 3. All right, good luck. And if you have any questions, email me. Don't forget to do the homework, and I will talk to you tomorrow.